Good morning, everyone. It's Pamela Ferguson. Today, we're going to talk about being positive. I know. Those people who aren't always positive, they're like, okay, I've got teens, so I completely understand. Sometimes I have to tell my kids, okay, you can give me an internal eye roll right now. But it's super important for your own mental health to maintain positivity. How can we stop negativity in its tracks? My uncle, Ed Pettit, he didn't make it up, he read it, he always said, but it always stuck with me, life is 10% what happens to you and 90% what you make of it. And if you really think about that, that is so on point. I heard this story. I thought it was so great. So we have a small village in Africa, and we have two salespeople. They both go into this village and think, okay, I'm going to sell shoes to this village. That's my goal. I want to sell shoes. So they go into the village, separate times or whatever, and they realize nobody has shoes there. So the two different salespeople go back to their company, and one of them says, this is awful. This is the worst thing ever. Nobody wears shoes. How in the heck am I supposed to sell shoes when no one wears shoes? Now, what did the other person say? They go back to their company and say, you will never believe this. Nobody has shoes. Can you imagine? Everybody needs shoes. I am so excited. Same situation. How did you handle it? How did you perceive the situation? Managing your expectations on what you expect out of a situation. If you expect to go in there, in this example, and sell a bunch of shoes, and you're like, oh my gosh, no one has shoes, no one's gonna want shoes. You could see how that person, I think you can probably see both sides. I can. You could see how you would maybe react a little bit of both. But like, oh dude, no one has shoes. How am I gonna sell shoes? It's all in the mind step. The other thing is that you have to believe in the positive and not the negative. Okay, you have a brand new dress. You go out and people are like, oh, that's so cute. Like 90% of the people, or let's say 10 people, 9 of them say how great you look. One of them says, yeah, I just don't think that's that flattering on you. What are you going to focus on? Let's be real. You're going to be like, oh my gosh, you're so self-conscious. This dress doesn't look good on me. To maintain a positive attitude, you have to let that negative go. Are there going to be haters about everything in your life? Absolutely. There's going to be people who watch this video and be like, this girl's so annoying. But I can't focus on that. We all can't focus on that. So out of 10 comments, why do you pick the one comment that's not good and just hold on to that and never let it go? That is going to eat you away, and it's not productive at all. I mentioned about managing your expectations. So for example, you made this huge meal for your husband. It was a special day, maybe the first day that you met, the anniversary of the first day you met, you made this wonderful thing. And then he comes home and he didn't remember that it was the first day you met. It's not your wedding anniversary or anything. It's just the day you met. And your expectations, you built it up to here. And so when he's like, oh, well, I didn't know, or you could be like, seriously? You didn't know. So when I talk about managing your expectations, if you expect people to respond in a certain way, you're going to be disappointed, and you're definitely going to be negative, because you are expecting people to act in a certain way. So if you give your friend a gift and they go, oh, thank you, and they don't seem very excited, and you're thinking, gosh, shouldn't they have thought I was the best person that ever has walked this earth? But you don't know, maybe they already had one. Just an example. But you're extremely disappointed, and you're like, well, that person's not nice, and blah, blah, blah. Not necessarily the case. You have certain expectations, and that has skewed your vision for the situation. One of the things that I like to do, and I have to admit it was really hard at first because I'd never done it before, is to have a gratitude journal. We've all kind of heard of this. I had taken one of my zillions of journals that I had around. You can use a composition book, you can use a little notepad, you can use whatever you want. It is a game changer. Seriously. So what you're gonna do, let's start out slow. I started out kind of big, but let's start out, I'll give you 3 options. Every day. 5 gratitude things. And it doesn't have to be like, I don't know, it doesn't have to be silly, it doesn't have to be super, super in-depth. It can be a variety of those things. Like it could be, I'm thankful for microwaves because, how much time that saves me. Or I'm thankful for texting because then I don't have to pick up the phone. So it, again, saves me time. It could be, I'm grateful for the smell of charcoal grills. You know what I mean? Or it could be, I'm grateful for my husband because I can't imagine what my life would be without him. Those are, some of the options. So I'm challenging you. Okay, 5 things. If you feel more aggressive and you're like, boom, I'm doing this, try 10. What about 15? Okay, I think 10 is a good average. I do 15, but it's a lot. And my goal at the beginning when I started was never to repeat. And I think I was pretty good about that, but now as time goes by, I obviously can't remember what I wrote down. So I'm sure if somebody went through mine with a fine-tooth comb, I'm guaranteeing there's repeats. But I really try not to repeat. But again, it could be 5, it could be 10. Take something and be consistent about it. It makes a huge difference in your mindset. If you're focusing on the positive instead of the negative, it really just makes you feel better. Okay, positive affirmations. If you're of a certain age, as myself, you remember that Saturday Night Live skit where he sat in front of the mirror and said, "You are good enough, you are smart enough, and gosh darn it, people like you." It was a joke, it was funny, all that stuff. However, there's something to that. That self-talk, it doesn't have to be in front of the mirror, though I do like that. I think it's can be very helpful. But it could be in your head. It could be, I'm perfectly great the way I am. I love my hair. Let's say you have hair that you hate. You know what I mean? Something about yourself, your own positive stuff. So the gratitude journal for everything positive in your life. But that self-talk, I've talked to someone that constantly is like, oh my gosh, I have to lose weight. I'm so fat, blah, blah, blah. And it's funny because I never perceived her that way. I never thought, oh yeah, well, she could lose some weight. I never looked at her that way. But she constantly even mentions it. And I'm like, her self-talk and perception I'm putting out there is really negative, and it makes me sad because I love her just the way she is. I think she's amazing. So it's sad for me, even as an outsider, to say that. So if she could adjust that and say, and she's been losing weight, so that's good for her because that's what she wanted. She could say, I'm down this many pounds. And not even a goal of a weight, like, she's meeting her goals, whatever it may be. Like, it could be just getting up every day and doing what you're supposed to do. So you need to really try to give yourself some self-love. Self-love, super important. You need to surround yourself with positive people. Jim Rohn said, you are the average of the top 5 people you hang out with. In your gratitude journal, make a list of who are the 5 people that you hang out with. Think about who they are. Are they people who complain all the time? Or saying, woe is me, poor me, I can't believe this person did this to me? Or are they like, you know what, that didn't work for me, but I'm gonna get that next time. I really agree with the laws of attraction. And there's this book called The Secret. So if you go on, it basically talks about the laws of attraction, like what you kind of put out, you get back. You know what I mean? If you're mean and nasty to people, people will be mean and nasty to you. Always exceptions, obviously. Sometimes you're super nice to someone and they're just constantly mean back to you. You don't have control over them, you have control over you. So what you put out to the world, you will get back. You saw that commercial where somebody did like a small act of kindness for somebody else saw it, and then they did an act of kindness for someone else, and they did an act, you know what I mean, how that goes. I do think that what you put out, you get back. So this is finals week and all the craziness at school, so my girls, my older girls, my high school girls in particular, are very stressed. they've got these tests, they feel like I'm not prepared, and they're like, well, this is what happened last time, and I did this, and blah, blah, blah. And so last night I sat down and talked. They both were stressed. And I talked to them. I said, listen, you can't stress on the things that happened in the past. It's done. You can't get it back. You've got to move forward. If you're thinking about something bad that happened here and you can't get rid of or can't let go of that, you're taking that into this next exam right here, because you're like, oh, I remember, I didn't know this. But instead of saying like, okay, what happened here that I was completely, what's a good word, confuddled, I don't know. And then I'm going to fix that between now and the next exam, and I'm going to either know that topic or whatever it is, or I wasn't comfortable in whatever I was wearing, so I'm not going to wear that again next time. So everybody's going to fail. Say that again. Everybody is going to fail. Everybody. Not at everything, but everybody's going to fail. So that helps to know that from the beginning. Take what you've learned from that situation, move it on to the next situation, and hopefully the next time it happens, you make less of those mistakes. So I'm trying to, get them in the right mindset of taking these exams. I'm like, we're working on breathing and relaxing, and because the last thing they want to go into a test all stressed, because you're not in the right mindset to do that test. We talk a lot about it in general, is you need to take some me time. If you are giving so much to other people, I'm talking so much, you should give to other people, of course. Where you don't have time for yourself, you don't make time for yourself, what do you find yourself being? Resentful? Mad that these people are not doing what you're doing? Is that going to be positive or negative? Obviously, it's negative. So we want to focus on switching that to a positive. So take something that relaxes you. It could be watch a movie. It could be take a bath. It could be read a book. I don't know. It would vary on you. It could be play a mindless game on your phone. It could just be petting your dog. Whatever it is, take some me time and de-stress. So that will help with your overall positive attitude instead of being so negative. The other thing that I mentioned a little bit is about paying it forward, about doing good for other people. So let me give you an example. You're at the bank and you get a lollipop. And you're like, well, my dentist says no lollipops for me. And after all, I'm an adult, right? Not that I haven't had suckers. But you turn to this child who, and says, oh, would you like this sucker or whatever? And, what happens to the child? They're like, bing, their face lights up. They're like, oh my gosh, like you are the nicest person in the entire world. It makes them feel happy, but how do you think it makes you feel? Well, it makes me feel great. I'm talking about giving back, volunteering at your school, find an organization that you feel passionate about and that does great things in your community. Giving to other people can make you feel so good as long as you don't have any expectations. Usually I don't do fast food very often, but when I do, I will go through the drive-thru, especially with my kids in the car, because I don't want to be noticed for things, but I want them to see what you should do. I will say, how much is that car behind me? And if it's not like $40 or something, they're like, yeah, it's $6.22. Okay, I want to pay for theirs too. And they're like, really? And I'm like, yeah. And I don't even say, I don't want them to know who I am because it's irrelevant. It doesn't matter. It's about doing something nice for something else or a group or volunteering or whatever, because that should make you feel good. It doesn't matter if you get a thank you. That's not why you should be doing it. But I guarantee you that will make you feel really good, or it should. In general, this is a topic that I'm really passionate about, but still working on. And that's part of my gratitude journal. And am I going to say that I'm never like, rah, rah, and I get upset and angry? Of course not. And I'm negative sometimes? Of course I am. Because I am human. When those times happen, you should say, okay, I got to keep this in perspective. Try to turn it into the positive. Most of you know that when I was going to go back to work after I had my oldest child, that they eliminated my job, and so I couldn't go back to work. There was oh my gosh, what am I going to do? This is horrible. These are horrible people. But at the same time, I'm like, okay, now what do I get to do? I get to stay home with my children. It wasn't my original plan at that time, but that is exactly where I needed to be. So try to look on the positive, or sometimes you might not even see it until later. There was a time where something really bad happened and we're like, this is the worst ever and blah, blah, blah. And 9 months later, we're like, oh yeah, that's why that happened. You may not realize at the time, but you realize, oh, okay, well, there was a reason something really crappy happened to me. Thank you so much for coming on today. And if you have any special tips to be positive, write them below. I'm always open to hearing more, and I'm sure that I don't know, well, I absolutely know that I don't know everything about being positive and always can look to be better. But have a great day. Let's catch up soon. Bye.